Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today we are bringing you Shudder's next original great, well, maybe not great, but really good horror movie, Blood Vessel. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis and then we'll jump into the film. Lifeboat survivors board a German boat that's crawling with vampires during World War II. This film stars Allison Sutherland, Robert Taylor, Nathaniel Phillips, Christopher Kirby, and I'm ended right there for this cast. Do I know any of these people? The slightest idea who any of these people are. I don't know any of these people. But what I do know is that from the pandemic during this time period, I have been focused on watching everything humanly possible on Shudder. I think I said it during my last two reviews from Shudder Original Films that for me, as a horror movie lover and as somebody who really dig apps and the way they can be creative with the way they deliver content, Shudder is still the best app to me. And recently I picked up AMC Plus to go along with Shudder, thinking that maybe I would drop my Shudder membership because AMC Plus gives you Shudder's content, but they don't deliver Shudder's content as well as Shudder's app delivers its content. So it made me, I'm sticking with that. I love the app. And speaking of loving things, let's get quickly into Blood Vessel. Now, let me first start off by saying the tone and atmosphere of this film is great. It's they set an ominous tone from the very beginning of this film. It feels like an old school horror vampire type pick, and that's something that I think the horror genre has been missing as of late, is those type of feels. Now, it does leave room for improvement when it comes to performances. The performances are average at best at times, but because the pacing is so good, the screenplay, it's written well, and this film is directed well, you can possibly get over the minor gaffes in performances or the minor gaffes in accents. Listen, accents are everywhere around this movie, and some of them make no sense at all. They are not done well, but again, as long as it keeps the story moving, that's the most important part. So we're dropped in the middle of this film as these people happen to be on this lifeboat. We don't know what's going on. We see a German ship approaching, and they board it to escape possible extinction from staying on a life raft with no food, no water, no nothing. And then that's when the movie gets a little different. Upon getting on this huge boat, they discover a little girl. From the moment you see the little girl on film, you know this little girl, there's something wrong with this little girl. That's all you know. It's something wrong with this little girl. And the moment they see this little girl and this little girl starts interacting with the crew, a lot of weird things start happening. Luckily, though, with the plot, the director did not rush into vampires now. They took their time. They built it up. Even though you knew it was coming, anyone that knows anything about horror movies, you know something bad is coming. But the buildup of it is so great. It never distracts you by throwing over the top vampire stuff at you. This is a slow burn. This is not a movie with a lot of action. It doesn't have a lot of blood sucking in it. It has a lot of none of that in it. It's very slow paced, but it works with the tone. Even when the film gets silly, and around the second and third act, it kind of gets a little silly. But again, everything is set up so beautifully at the beginning of the film. Even the practical effects are really good in this movie. So it makes you look past its little flaws and just enjoy that this is a decent vampire movie, which is hard to do nowadays. It's hard to really get a decent vampire movie. We see so many people miss marks. Either the vampires sparkle in sunlight for some reason, or they're just overly blood sucking. None of that happens here. And it actually brings up something later on in the film when we get to the head vampire and his control over people. I thought was super cool, a beautiful element to add to this movie. Now, that's not saying again that this movie does not have its flaws. Not saying that everyone's going to love this movie, because if I nitpicked it enough, I could find issues with it. But for me, for a film that clearly has a small budget and not people who seem to be real big into acting, but the pacing, the plot, the story, like everything else is so well done. And that's what I got to give them credit for here, is that they never went over the top with the vampires, and they stuck to their pacing. No matter what, this movie sticks to its pacing, and it really works. If you've seen, I think it's called U-Boat 571, U-Boat something, starring Matthew McConaughey, that came out years ago. This pacing in Blood Vessel reminded me of that film's pacing, and that film's pacing is what made that movie work, and that's what makes Blood Vessel work. In the end, while it is silly, while it has certain flaws in it, at no point in time was I not engrossed by the story. And I think anybody who watches it, you'll feel the same exact way. So, Blood Vessel, brought to you by Shudder. Out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Blood Vessel a 6 out of 10, which to me is not bad at all, especially for a vampire film, especially for a low-budget vampire film, especially for just everything about this film. It shouldn't work, and it still does. And that's the key part here, is that it still works. And if you're a lover of horror movies, I'm pretty sure you're going to really like this movie. If you're a lover of vampire films, you should like this movie. Granted, it's supposed to be set in World War II. They really never explain it to you, and it has a kind of diverse cast to be in World War II. Like, I was expecting certain words that I will not say here to be said to certain cast members by other cast members for it to be said in World War II. But again, you get over that real quick because of its tone and its setting, and it's not scary, it's creepy. And being creepy really, really works for this film. So check it out. Blood Vessel. It is currently available on Shudder. Peace, people.